how do you have the ability to express yourself? So recognizing your expressions of yourself come verbally, but they do come in that nonverbal way, and it goes back to those unintended consequences of giving off of a nonverbal message that actually can completely delete a message. So non-verbally, if you give me some kind of cue that's incongruent or that says you're saying one thing but you're going to do another, I won't believe you. I'll be like, nope, So it will have a diminishing or a deleting effect of the communication and the communication intention. Now, obviously, if we're overly assertive, we get put into the category of aggressive, and that's not the intention. But if we're not assertive enough, what does that tend to look like, especially in the workplace? Not competent, and the weakness element, or that other people can take advantage of you. So when I do a lot of team development kind of work, we talk about workflow. And when we're looking at workflow, we look at, okay, so you have somebody who, what I call it, the full plate person. They'll take on all of their work plus about 15 other people's work, and then their plate is extremely full. That's a pretty non-assertive person, because they don't have the ability to say, hey, whoa, this is too much for me. I already have 4 other projects that I'm working on, plus you've tasked me with 3 other committees to be on. I cannot do all of this at one point in time, or at this point with this schedule. A friend of mine took over a position, a supervisor position, and literally in a month, she was supposed to be at 80 meetings in a 40-hour week. And I'm like, how are you supposed to even get your work done? And so it was a lot of, okay, I have to talk to my boss. How do I talk to my boss, Jodi? And we worked through multiple pieces of that. It was actually bad enough that one of her coworkers in the meeting with the boss said, is there not some way that we can minimize this or cut these down? Does she really have to go to this many meetings? And they did eventually come up with a compromise, but you have to have a level of assertiveness that says, you know what, not appropriate, it's too much. It's not realistic for my life, for my work environment, for anything that I can do to be productive as a worker. So it's a good spot to be balanced at. Your nonverbals matter when you're on the phone too, because they can pick them up. Also, if you can smile when you're talking to somebody who's difficult, that softens the conversation too, because it gives you a little bit breathier of a sound, and that helps to pull the intensity out of the situation. Yes, there is a fine art where you don't want to be totally disengaged and laying back, but in the same respect, you don't want to be leaning too far forward where you're actually taking up someone else's space that's comfortable. I do an exercise with my students where I have them stand on, they line up on 2 sides of a room, and we work on recognizing where you're comfortable and where you're not comfortable when people walk up to you. So, and they also have to work on reading nonverbals. So they'll line up on the opposite sides of a room, and one person has to walk, and I tell them, you are not allowed to run at the person. You have to walk slowly, and the person who's walking has to pay attention to nonverbals. So if somebody winces, if there's a little twitch in their cheek as they're walking towards you, if they're looking up or looking to the side as you walk, then you have to stop, and the person who is being walked towards, they need to stop them when the person walking towards them, when they're becoming uncomfortable. And it's interesting to also see who can read what quicker. You need to recognize what is comfortable and what is safe for you. And we actually do it from different positions, and they learn things like, are you comfortable with somebody coming towards you? Or what about somebody coming from behind you or to the side? And some of the interesting feedback is if you have people who are too close to each other, it's not necessarily their partner that will bother them, but it's the other people that they see in their periphery coming that'll trip them off too. So it's a good self-reflection piece. It's also good for them to learn how to read other people's nonverbals and to really not only take in that information, but be required to act on that information, where it's like, I just caught that you're uncomfortable, I'm going to choose to stop even if you can't recognize it right now, which is really, it's a very important, I think, life skill for a lot of people.